Hello everybody, it's Lucy Wolfe here, sleep consultant and author of The Baby Sleep Solution. I hope that you're really well today. Just wanted to discuss a couple of things with you today, mostly about when your sleep has been improving and then it starts to degrade for some reason, and or when you've been improving your sleep you've been on holidays and trying to recover the good work that you've had, or you've had vaccinations, or your baby has started to teeth or become unwell, because I guess these things are what generally can become barriers when you are working on improving your sleep. So I suppose first of all what I want you to know is that if you've been actively making changes from my book The Baby Sleep Solution, and you're using the stay and support approach, so your baby is older than 6 months and you've been making progress, and I guess, and I would caveat that by saying, and you've been following all of the guidelines, so not partially following the guidelines or not in an uncommitted way following the guidelines, that you've been actively making all the recommendations and following the guidelines as closely as you possibly can, and meeting your child's need as best as you can within that. So if things are going well and they stop going well, then generally I find that there is an external contributory factor to that, and that external factor would generally be either teething or sickness. And again, I look for symptoms. So I look for, flushed cheeks, sore bottom, messy nappies, change in mood behaviour, off food, loads of drooling. And if I see any of those symptoms, even just one on their own, and I tie that in with the degradation of your child's sleep, when it had been going well, then I generally feel that you're in a teething cycle, and I just try my best to maintain what I've already established, but at the same time providing much more support than maybe you've been giving, because you've improved your, the way you've been dealing with things, but try not to go back down the cracks. So if, for example, you've moved away from nighttime feeding, or you've moved away from rocking, I encourage you maybe to try not to go back there, or if you've been reversing bed sharing, because I try not to open the wound again, if that makes any sense to you. And then as a result of that, you might hold fire, you might use pain medication, or if you've been to the doctor and you need antibiotics because it's sickness, then you hold your fire, you tread water, and you wait until your child starts to feel better. And generally, like 8 times out of 10, what you'd already established, provided you'd not gone too far off book during the period of sickness or teething, starts to come back up to the surface, and then you can pick up where you were and you can start moving through the stages to sleep that are outlined in the book as well. So again, I just think that it's important to note that if your child is very unwell, very uncomfortable, I would totally hold them. I would sit up with them. I would be available to them. I would work through it with them. I would camp out in their room with them. And then I would hope that as soon as they start to feel better, they maybe don't need you as much. What's quite typical to hear is that you'd worked your way out of the room, and then the high need emerges because they're not feeling great, and so you have to go back to stage 1, and that's perfectly fine. And then as soon as you feel maybe they're feeling more tolerant, then I would suggest that you either, there's the dog, sick of being here, listening to this, that I would either go through the stages one more time, or I would see could you just leave again, so get back to where you're at and what they tolerate within that. Obviously, I do appreciate that a lot of you have been on holidays, and that as a result of your return from the holiday, that the sleep isn't amazing as a result. And in some ways, I almost feel like returning from holidays, having vaccinations, teething and sickness, they're all interrelated. And I suppose it will throw a developmental leap in there for good measure as well, because these are the things that generally serve to undermine what you're trying to establish. And it takes time to work through your child's sleep, but it's about feeling confident and having belief in the process and in their ability, that you hold them where they're at. And I don't mean hold them necessarily physically, although you will do that if you need to, but I mean holding them emotionally where they're at as they are processing whatever change that they are experiencing. And I've posted before about rolling and sitting up and standing up, because these are the big developmental stages that interfere with your sleep, so you can scroll through the videos on that. There are other videos on managing teething and sickness as well, but I just wanted to mention that if you have to go back, it's not a bad thing at all. But then it's trying to figure out when is the better time to maybe start moving forward again. When are they going to be more open to that and to try and do that? Because your sleep needs upkeep and maintenance. So even when you've had great sleep for 2 months or 3 months or whatever it might be, it always needs you to work with it, if that makes any sense. And in some periods you'll have to work more intensely than others. When your sleep has been quite good for a while and then you hit a roadblock for whatever reason, I always get you to look at the timings again, so revisit a slightly earlier bedtime, because we want to stop that overtired tank from filling all of the time. So just to bear that in mind as well as you work through your little bit of a regression for whatever reason that you are experiencing it. Loads of content on my website, sleepmatters.ie, and absolutely loads of videos on all of the questions that you ask in my IGTV channel, and you just need to scroll through them. They're all titled, so whether it's 2 naps to 1, short nap durations, newborn strategies, whatever the questions are, you'll find a lot of the answers in the IGTV, and of course you'll find loads of information, suggestions in my book, The Baby Sleep Solution, which the link is in the bio. So I will look forward to seeing you here again soon.